I'm sharing my, you can see my code, right? VS Code.
Yes, I got it.
So this is where we left off. Was it? I had this working. What did I do? I took this. Oh, this was working. Okay. I had all of these in here and I just removed this part for now. How did I do? Okay. All right, well, let's debug this again. Okay. Data mismatch error type Boolean. These errors are always such a pain. Oh, I think I have this and right here. Okay, so this was where we left off, but I don't have this whole part right here. So what we're going to do here is throw in this and. I'm going to need to interpolate this for now. So let's just do that right here. Now that should work with Salt Lake and avoid that error. But really what this is going to be, this is eventually going to be like, you know, it could be multiple things. SLC Draper. That one doesn't have anything. But instead of hard coding this, I want to use my cities array right here. But this wants a string right here. My cities is an array. How do I go from, I think these are like two pretty common methods you'll see, and they're pretty useful. Let's just talk about them. Let's say I have an array of something and I want to go from an array to a string. I can do join. I can join things and then I can tell it how I want to join it. So that will go through my array, convert it to a string, and then for each thing, it's going to like add that delimiter. So if I don't have anything, I could take in there, I could just squish them all together, or I could do it by a comma and then a space. I could also take a string and I can split it. This is the way to go backwards, split it on a character or on a match. So I could go from a string separated by commas and a space, split it on a comma and a space and get the array back. So, but here I want to go from an array to this string of the values separated by a comma and then a space. So here I'm going to do my cities dot join space. Probably don't even need the space. Cool. There's that. But I'm also, the other thing I need to do is I'm hard coding this 9. I'm just going to put a question mark here and then use the ID that was passed. So there's that's now 98, but now if I switch to like 8 didn't have any, does 10. 11 have some. So there we go. So let me Slack out this, I'll just select out this whole file. So you have it. There is my buyers file. And yeah, I think how I did the seats file, yeah, I wanted to switch that from a random number from 1. Instead of starting it was at 0. I think at 1's going to be good, because then it's at least, you know, everyone's going to have at least one desired city. So it will just make for more matches. I could also go in and like maybe add some more cities, but I think for now I'm just going to switch that. And let's go ahead and do a Rails DB. Let's just do a reset. It's taking its time, but let's take so long. But yeah, having some decent seed data, I think this can like, you know, can help and hurt you. So spending some time, and you're in control of this. It's like you get to do what you want to do. Like, but now this is not resetting. Okay. What is going on here? Out of iTerm, I guess. Is there something wrong with the Rails DB drop? I'm going to recreate it, remigrate it. See if these are working. Okay, now let's do Rails. Am I getting myself in like an infinite loop? I don't know what's going on with that. I look like that worked. Rails S-P 3000 M1. This could like potentially be some harder, without like, since I'm using random data, it's kind of like hard to go in and test this. Well, now this is not working. Did I just totally break this? Okay. Katie wants to live in Draper. I guess Draper's not in these properties, so that makes sense. Shanice wants to live in Sandy or Salt Lake. Max price. Okay, so that should return some. Maybe. So this is, yeah, with this fake data, it's like I have to like go in and inspect if it's actually working. So I'm looking at buyer 10. They want to live in Sandy or Salt Lake and have a max price of 864. And then I go look at the properties. And it's like, okay, maybe this one should not have any. So if I do 10, actually makes sense, because the ones that are in the city and price range are sold. These ones are not sold, but they're expensive. So they're under the price range. So wants to live in Sandy, but once again, over the price. So like, I have this data, like this is a hard one to kind of test. I actually kind of like come in here and visually, like, Mal wants to live in Salt Lake, has $1 million+ price range. Okay, so this one should show up for this user. So a user with ID 12 should get something back. Okay, there we go. Oh, something I did. Okay, this was another not stupid thing I did. I think I like changed the price range of my properties, but not the max price range. So there's like this mismatch. So maybe just to create some more matches, I can make like, I don't know, like my average, like make this maybe a little higher. Like I'm going to have everyone over $800,000 and have some properties, starting at $300,000 or some more properties that, are likely to be a lower price range. Now I might reset the network Rails DB reset. So you might find yourself updating, changing your seed file just to help you test. You can go in here, change your numbers in your seeds file. Cool. But then, yeah, I might have to like check that against, like, I don't know. I don't like having all these buyers that don't have any properties. Cool. But I think the SQL calls are working. If it does, we just have a lot of people in our database where we don't match. But I would say this is done. Like I don't like it's pretty well tested. I think this one's done. So what I would do before moving this to QA is I feel like I've tested it, but remember I'd want to do a get poll origin master. Now, if I got any changes that I thought might affect my code or the functionality of my code, I'd like want to go retest. But nothing was changed. So now I can do a get push origin. JY find home backend. Push it up to the branch. I don't have to merge right away. Like I can, if this wasn't done, I could keep on pushing up. But this one is done. So now, and I want to move this to the QA section. So what I would do, where is that branch? Get push origin. Where are you, branch? Oh, anyone know what I forgot to do? I'm doing this. I forgot to add. I need to like commit this. So I didn't really change anything as far as get because I didn't add and commit. So I definitely need to add and commit before I try pushing up. If I don't add and commit, there's nothing to push up. So now I push that up. I did actually, when I pushed up that branch. That's why it's there. It was just up to date with master because it didn't have any changes. But now it does have changes because I pushed them up. See, now this branch is one commit ahead of master. That was that commit I just made like 10 seconds ago. So now what I would do is I would come in here like as me, the developer, like Here's what I did. Create pull request. And then, at this point, this is as me as a developer, this one I would be like done. Or like, this is now like ready for QA. And then as a developer, I can now move this to QA, and then someone else would need to come in and merge it. So someone else comes in, they go ahead, they look at the code, you go check it, you see what's been changed. Make sure there's no unnecessary changes in here. Go back, and then I could merge it. So yeah, this is on master. So yeah, I can delete this branch. That like I can still find it. Like the branch is like hit like all this commit history. It's not like I'm deleting that. It's just I'm just kind of keeping that clean so I could find it. And then I can go to my terminal. I can do a git checkout master. And then everyone else, I would tell everyone on my team, hey, we just did a merge to master. You can go ahead and pull if you want. And now I have those changes. Now I'm going to do a git checkout JY find home front end, because that's like the next feature I'm going to be working on. So let's just review briefly what we want to do there. We're going to need to do an Axios call to grab our agents, and then to grab our buyers, and then to grab the buyer's properties. So as far as the front end, I don't think there's going to be much. This is going to be a little more straightforward. There's going to be like probably no normalization with this. It's just more hooking up, kind of these event handlers, and like, there's going to be 3 separate API calls here. They need to go in order, but I think this one should go a little quicker. Okay. So let's kind of go now, kind of get out of back end mindset. Now I'm in like the front end mindset. So I'm going to just call this, let's go to my pages. I'm going to do a new file. Call this like find home.js. I'm just being lazy. I'm just going to copy one of these. So I'm just kind of, this is how I like to do it. Just, maybe I should call this find homes plural. It's a little more accurate. Just like to get this, my components, hooked up to my router and just get it set up in my UI. I'm not doing any of the logic right now. Cool. So I just create a stubbed out component. Can go ahead, add that to my navbar. Homes. Just call this homes. Let's just say find homes. And I'll throw this one down here. Okay, so that's in my navbar. And now I need to do it in my app.js. Add the path. And the component find homes. Just start up my Rails server, Rails S-P 3001. Let's see, I'm going to reorder this to. Okay, so now I can go to the front end, localhost 3000, find homes. There we go. So it's just like maybe before we start coding, let's think about like our API calls. Just so we have them, we're going to have, you know, a get to API slash agents. This is going to be on mount. Just coming up with a little game plan. Then we're going to have a get to API slash agent, and then the ID of the agent. That's going to be on agent select. When we select an agent. I'll also say this. This gives me back my agents. This one should give me back, you know, the buyers. Given agent. And then we have buyers. ID. That's going to be on buyer select. That's going to give me the properties for a given buyer. So let's just go ahead and work on this. So I'm going to do a const agents, set agents. We can just start these off as null. I know I'm going to want, you know, I'll probably list the buyers. So I'm going to have these pieces of state and, you know, properties. Okay, so I'm definitely going to need my import to import, you know, use state. I'm using it 3 times here. Use state and use effect. React. So const, let's just do our use effect. Just want this to run on mount. So I can do a get agents call. A const get agents. This will be async. Could maybe have used our use Axios on mount, but let's just do it this way. So I can do a try catch here. Let response equal await. Axios.get slash API slash agents. So for now, maybe I can just do like a quick little check. So I'm going to do agents. So is agents defined? If agents is defined, actually, I don't even really care if it is defined. It can be null. JSON.stringify can handle null. So I'll just do agents. Let res, and then, oh yeah, sorry, we need to set agents to be res.data. Just want to check that this Axios call is working, and then that's not, shouldn't be capitals. That's it. I'm always a fan of doing smaller chunks of work and testing sooner. Cool. So it looks like I'm getting my agents. Just make a call just to test. I think, you know, we can kind of have hooking up the UI be something, or like click handlers. Maybe for now we can just like hard code some of this, and I can just do this all in my on mount just to check. And here's what I mean by this. So I'm going to have this get buyers function. I'm going to expect this to like take an ID. You know, this doesn't get API agents and then the ID. And then here we can set buyers, ures.data. Say something like this, agents, buyers. And now I can see if I can get this call to work. Now this one I actually need to pass an ID, so I'm just going to hard code, just pass it 1. That looks like it's still just getting that's my agent data, but that's probably because I'm rendering it right here or stringifying it. Just do my buyers. Cool. So I have my agents, and then I have my
is your Axios call right in your get buyers?
Is it? That's what I'm wondering.
Agents by ID, is that right? For buyers?
Well, let's see. Yeah, I have agents ID. Yeah, I think that's right. Because if I look at my routes, agents ID, that goes to my agent show. If I go to my agent show, oh, sorry, my agents show, that's rendering agent.buyers. So it's really, maybe I am like, could maybe change this name. Like technically it's not showing an agent, but it's showing the agent's buyers. Like one agent, it's grabbing one agent and then it's going to render that agent's buyers. So I might want to call that like show buyers, but and change the route. But I think this is fine. Like that's what I want. These are the buyers that belong to agent 1. Like, see, these are all agent ID 1. Because that's just what I hard coded right here.
Yeah, I see that.
If I do 2, then that's all the buyers for 2.
Right.
So I could do the same thing. I could do like a get properties. And then for now, let's just do like alert there. So we can like have somewhat of some error handling. And then I can do my const get properties. And that's going to be a get to, that was to my buyers, and then the ID of the buyer. So that's going to show me all the properties for a given buyer. And then I could, you know, hard code it. Thing in there, get properties. I think we used 12. I think 12 actually had some properties, except I reseeded my database, so I don't know if that's going to still be there. But then I could do properties. Still not, that's my buyers. trying to find my properties. And yeah, there is that. I really, something I might not need for the back end. This kind of has like maybe some extra information I don't need that I could have taken off in my model. Like I really just, for this call and for the data and just to keep this clean, I mean, I really just wanted square foot, price, and city. Maybe I should get back like the property.id. So those are going to be all the properties that match in the price range. So, and this desired cities. So I just like that select statement in my homes. I just cleaned it up a little bit just because this is really all we need for the UI. Just give them an ID so they can use the key, and the property ID would be the good one to get back here because that's really kind of the information we're giving them. It's information about the property. So cool. Now this way I chose to do it was just, just kind of like a strategy of like, hey, let's just get my API calls set up and working. And now I have like these three methods: get agents, get buyers, get properties, that I know like I can call these methods. And like I've just kind of done like a quick test to see that they work. So now I can just like delete all this stringifying stuff and now go and like hook this up actually. So instead of stringifying it, like, which is not really useful other than just visualizing the data, now I want to go in and do the select. But I also like the nice thing with this now is I've done this with my cities, so I kind of have an example. So we kind of have like this render select method. So it looks like we could just do this as well. So remember for this one, we have a form select. We had to give it this one option, this disabled option, to kind of like show this way of like telling them to select that was not selectable. And then we map over our array and create an array of option JSX. And that's what's the thing they're going to use to check. And there's an on change where we can give it a callback like handle select. And that's where we can, do our thing. So this is probably where we can do our Axios call. Okay. And just to keep this simple, I'm just going to, copy this. I'm going to create two of these methods. I might want to, and like, I could almost say the same for these three things. I could almost like abstract these and like maybe try to combine them into two different methods. But just to get this working, I'm going to have these two render selects, but I'm going to make the distinction between, an agent select and a buyer select. And these all need to take in that cities array. So this should say select city. This should say select agent. And this should not map over my cities. This is going to map over my agents. Now this is going to be different because my agent data was not coming back as like a nice array of strings. Like it's a little more detailed. So this one I'm going to want to be the agent.id, because that's what I want for my value. I want the ID of the agent because that's what I need to send to my API call. But this is the one I want to be like more readable. So this would be like, the first name. We might need to do some more and show the last name, but let's just get this working. So now down here, I am going to do agents. So if my agents are defined, then I want to render agent select. So now I have form is not defined, handle selects not defined. So on change, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to get buyers. Actually, how I want to do this, I'm going to just do in the function right here. I take the event from the select, and I'm going to pass the event target value, because that is going to be the ID. So here's my on change. I'm just writing the function right here that, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm going to, let's maybe just switch this up a tiny bit. Maybe this is a little confusing. So I'm going to call my get buyers method. But here's how this is going to change this function. This is no longer going to be the ID. This is going to be the event. I mean, I could call it ID, but really what that's going to become, it's going to become the event from the select. And then I could say let ID equals event.target.value. So that's how I grab the ID, and then I can use that for my API call. Okay, so my form's not defined, so I need to import my form from Bootstrap. Handle select. Oh, I'm going to comment this one out for now. So please choose. There's my agents. And yeah, I could also, like, maybe I do want that JSON .stringify, because now I should be able to check, hey, did that actually set my buyers when I selected an agent? So right now my buyers are null because I haven't selected an agent, but if I go and select an agent, well, cool, that does the Axios call and that grabs the buyers. So now I could do something similar with this. I could say, hey, do I have buyers? If I do have buyers, let's call this method. So now I can comment out this one. This is going to do something similar where this is going to get properties. It calls that get properties method. And I could say like select buyer. And this one's going to map over my buyers.map. So again, I'm going to go through each buyer. I want the ID of the buyer to be the value, but then like the buyer dot like name. So like this is what I'm going to want for the to send from my database call, but this is more human readable. And then once again, with my get properties, I kind of need to do this same thing. With how, I mean, the way I tested it is not quite exactly how I want it to work, so I need to make a little change. You know, because now to grab the ID, I can't hard code it. I want to grab it from the event target value, can store it to a variable, and then use that variable. And then here I could do a JSON stringify properties. And actually like do that. Okay, so let's refresh. I think that was just already in my state. Okay. Well, how come that is not null? Oh, it is there. So I'm going to select a agent. Cool. So now I see my buyers drop down. So I can now select the buyer. And then there are the properties. Cool. So now I could do like a render properties method. So we don't just stringify it. You know, return. I could maybe do a check in here, like if there are not properties, I could say return like, or I could just return. See if I can return. There's kind of three cases here. There's like, if I don't have properties, if this is undefined, you know, properties, let's just do like specific, like this is not going to be like the great UI, but I kind of want you to kind of know the distinctions, like, or kind of see the distinctions here. So I'm going to render, I'm going to call this method. See, properties undefined. And I'm going to say, you know, this probably means, or this does mean you haven't selected the buyer. Because this doesn't get defined until we select the buyer. There could be another case, you know, if properties length equals 0, then I could do something like this. No properties match desired cities and price range for buyer. This is going to be the first state, because right here, my properties, when I load this page, my properties is going to be null, right? Because I haven't done any API call. Now you might say, hey, let's like send this to an empty array. But here, I don't think it really makes sense to set that to an empty array, because these are, for this particular case, these are two different things. This is like, I haven't even tried to get the data yet, because, and then there's going to be this case, you know, that could happen quite a bit where I get back an empty array, and that really kind of signals that like, oh, hey, we did get the properties for this buyer. It's just they don't have any desired cities or max price. So do you see how these two are different, the null and the empty array? And why I want to set my initial state of properties to null. And then I'll have kind of these two checks. So if I don't have properties, you know, it's undefined. This means you haven't selected the buyer. And in this case, it means, no desired city for price range for selected buyer. But if we do have some properties, then we can return properties.map through each property. I might not care so much about the UI on this one, just kind of want to get it working. Give this a key, property.id. Like the price. Price. Got the city, p.city, and the square footage. SQ_FT. So we could select our agent, select the buyer. There's buyers. Let's see if we can find one that doesn't have any properties. It looks like they all have some. Okay, so Juanita, she has no properties for her desired cities and price range. So there is that feature. I'm fine with this looking like, I think one thing you would maybe want to do with this is maybe add some React bootstrap to this. But for time's sake, let's just do a quick little pixel. It's a little border. There we go. So there is that feature, the front end feature. This would really be one, I would kind of expect this to look, oh, I also don't need to do those 2 API calls at the start. I just need to get my agents at the start. But this is one, if I was looking at homework or like hackathon, how this would be coded, I would expect this, it to be look pretty different. The functionality would be the same, but maybe how you ended up doing this, there'd be a lot of variety.
You mean styling wise, or?
I mean, in the code, the code would look a lot different. You'd have different methods. There'd be maybe some things that would be shared, but the way I would I expect to see this line of code right here? Probably not. Or just this way.
Okay.
Because a more interactive UI, there's kind of just more ways to code it. Yeah, at the end, the functionality should be more or less, the UI might be different, but the functionality would be the same. But cool. So there's that. What time is it? 12:40. I'm not going to do a pull request for this. I'm just going to push it to master. One way I can, so let's say I do a get checkout master. Ah, crap. I didn't add. I'm being so bad about that. I didn't add and commit. So when I checked out to master, like all those changes are on master now. See, like I'm doing a get status on master. I now have all this stuff on here, which is fine because what I wanted to do was push it up to master. But okay. So there's a couple of things that are kind of they're more like using third-party libraries that we can do tomorrow, but continue with this lecture. So I want to talk about charts. I want to talk about maybe some pagination stuff and maybe like an infinite scroll. We'll see where we get. So we'll do that tomorrow, but what I want to do is, let's just, so we're set up for tomorrow. We don't have to do this. I think we do have the data, but let's kind of like look at this chart. Because let's say we're starting to do this chart. Now we don't need any, we don't need to worry about the UI, like the like how we're going to code it. Let's just worry about what we need for this. Like what API or what data do we need? And think about this like mathematically. I want to go find all the prices, and this will be for like sold homes. I want to find all of the, I want to find the average cost by city of sold homes. And it's like, okay, cool. Do we have an API call that does that? That has that data? Not like that gives us sold price information by and city information. It doesn't have to be like organized. But
I'm gonna have to go back and look, but because I don't remember, but it sort of seems like we do.
the one call I would think, because I mean, we could go look at our UI. Like this, there's not going to be a pay like, sorry, let me start my server. Kind of go through. Like these ones don't really have it, right? For all of our, like we want all of our properties. Like this page is not like, there's not going to be an API call in here that has it. Our cities. This one really doesn't have it either, even though we have the price. I mean, I think with this one way I could make this work, but this is kind of should like not probably be a good one. Like I'd have to go through all my cities, like I'd have to get my cities, and then I'd have to do API calls for all those cities to grab all the prices. So this, like these two calls, right? I technically do have the two API calls to get them. But I don't know I don't know if that's that great because, you know, if I have like 1,000 cities, I'm gonna have to do 1,000 API calls.
It wouldn't be hard to do like an index method for your cities, would it?
Yeah, I mean, we could, yeah, it's not gonna be hard. I'm just asking, like, do we have it now? Because that's something, you know, we can ask. We have this available page. So this has all of our properties and the prices. Right? Or does it? Does this have the information?
I think so. Yeah. It's got different cities.
Well, so this one actually might not have any of the information we need. It looks like it might. Actually, I don't even know if this one has it. I forget, because remember, actually, I don't think this one does have it. Because I think all of these are, if we go look at the SQL calls themselves. So let's go to our cities model. Or where did I do that one? Agents. Oh, I think it's in my property. Oh, wait, okay, our cities would, because here's like the kind of one got you. A lot of these were filtering on whether or not the property was sold. So for this chart, I want to find the average cost of all sold homes. That was like a little detail in this story. Which cities have the highest selling homes? And it's like on properties that have been sold. So that's an important part of that. So it looks like this one does give me where property sold is true. So that one does give me it, but that one I have to, is only specific for each city. So I'd have to do it for each city. If I look at my agent one, oh, and this is a bug now that I look at it. Oh, wait, no, sorry. I'm reading this wrong. This sign right here is not. So this is where it's sold is not true. So that one doesn't have it because it's just the properties that are not sold. So sorry, I lied. This one does not, because this one does not work because it doesn't have any of the sold properties. Sorry, I read that wrong. Same thing with our agent. If I look at my available, this is like these are like unsold homes. So I don't want to include this data in my in my chart. And this is where, like, you know, you start making these specific SQL calls, like they kind of become like, yeah, very kind of more specific, and they're like less reusable. Oh wait, no, sorry, this is not the right one. That's not the right one, but still on our, where is that one? It's the available. I mean, it's the same thing though, where we're filtering out all the sold ones. But do you see the point? Like, this API call that we grab the available, it doesn't grab us all the properties. It grabs us all the properties that are not sold. And then it's like, well, all of a sudden, like that almost does have the information. Like if I just took out this where clause, now it has it all. And it does have this sold information. So now, like, I could. So that's like a choice you make as a developer. Like, I think like having this hard coded in here is not going to be ideal, because now I can't like reuse this SQL call to get that information to create that chart. If this chart, if I didn't have that in there, then I could. And you know, it's pretty easy for the front end, as long as I send back this sold property. That would be pretty easy for the front end to handle that, to filter it out. Like, just do it somewhere in here where like where do I do the Axios call? Just do it right here, the unsold properties equal res.data.filter. Go through each of those pieces of property. It's not p.sold. That's it there. Boom. Now I have that UI working. But just something to think about. I'm going to just switch it back to the way it was though. Because part of this lecture is to like kind of get some practice just with SQL and to create some more specific SQL calls. And if that's how you, if you like SQL and that's how you want to do it, that's fine. But that's kind of, you know, maybe some of the reasons, like when you're building out the backend, you can kind of make these more kind of, they have more information and they're like more in-depth SQL calls. And then the UI can just use that one API call for multiple different features. But I'm going to like switch this back to the way it was. So let's just undo that change and undo that change. And let's just kind of like find another way to maybe just to maybe do that, to find another way to like do some SQL to grab so a different way to like grab the information to do that chart. Why is that not? Come on. Okay, there we go. And then we'll do this last SQL call and then we'll go to lunch. So what I'm going to do, just once again, let's do select, I don't know, city from addresses. There's our city. Make them distinct. Figure out our distinct cities. So I'm going to do something like similar to what we did with count, but what we're going to do is I'm going to like aggregate some strings. So we're going to like start aggregating just the price in a string. So just like it's kind of like essentially what we did with the, not quite the join, but it's just going to start building up this string. So I use this string aggregate function from SQL. And then I want to do, has anyone heard this term cast? This is a, you know, a SQL thing, but has anyone heard of casting or heard that term? Casting is like a computer science term or like a programming term you'll hear. It's like when you convert one type of data to another, like say you go from an integer to a string, you'll sometimes say that's like casting. You're casting it from an integer to a string. So when you hear that word cast, just kind of think of like converting something. So we're going to take our price, because I think our price was an integer, but I want to treat it as a varchar. And then I'm going to join that by a comma and a space. So I'm going to go through all my prices and join them with a comma. And then I need to like give this a name as prices. So I'm going to create this prices column. So that's from addresses, but remember my price data is on my properties table. So I need to do an inner join. Properties, just alias this as P on my property dot ID equals my addresses dot property underscore ID. And this one I do want to grab, hey, where all of them are sold. Or sorry, where property dot sold is true. I only want the information of the sold ones. Oh, I need a group by. So I'm going to group by, since we're doing the city. See if this does it. I could also add like I could do a count. Star. So how many prices are there? And I could just call this price. If I wanted, this is kind of like the front end should be like, it's pretty easy to like take this string in the front end, convert it to an array and say, hey, that's going to be 3 things, but we could send how many, the count. And maybe I call that like price count. Cool. So I could get back, I'm doing a call where, I get back just kind of like separated by commas, the prices by city, and then the count. And then I think this format's pretty good for the front end because, I could have like probably added these up and summed them here, but maybe there's more, maybe there could be more on, like this gives the front end more power than they could like, it's not just the average. They can find out the average with this, but then they could do like, the min and the max price by city. Just gives them a little more information. So there is another SQL call that you can look at. But yeah, I think where is that one you're doing? Did I delete it? I should have not deleted it. There was that one we were starting to build out where it's like we could have got all of our data from our database, just sent that back, and then the front end could have just done whatever with it. The more specific we get with how we're sending our data back, the more API calls we're going to have to do and the less it can be done. But that might be fine. Cool. Sweet. I think this is a good place to stop. Tomorrow we'll do more like, we'll do some pagination and then we'll do some charting stuff. So it's kind of more like starting to explore, like a lot of the work for that is going to be like exploring some third-party libraries to help us out with that. But I do not believe I did any change. Did I do any changes? Get status. Yeah, I didn't really change any of the code, so we're up to date. And just to kind of show you, like before I quit, you know, this might be a good time to like spend just a second. So in progress, charting backend.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you throw that SQL call that you made in SQ Electron somewhere, just so we can have it as like an example?
Yeah, it's out in Slack.
Oh, okay. I missed that. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. But yeah, something I might want to do, let's say like I'm ending right here. It's like the end of the day, I'm done. Yeah, I might want to have that code somewhere. I could like maybe throw it in a link somewhere or like, you know, just leave a note like, this is where we left off to, you know, convert this, you know, or need to add this to Rails tomorrow. Just like some sort of note for yourself. And, you know, do charts, pagination. Scroll. And then, yeah, I could maybe like throw those as cards, like pagination, infinite scroll. Charting, like sold price, front end. So just take like, since it's like fresh in my head right now, you know, taking 5 minutes just to maybe kind of set it up so tomorrow, you know, I know what I need to do. And like also, yeah, make sure this is also a time I like to like make sure, you know, my git status, like I'm on like master, or I'm on the right branch that I want to be on. Make sure like I'm up to date. Cool. So I'm like leaving myself at a good like stopping point. And now I can go home and forget about all of this. Cool. So yeah, tomorrow when we get back tomorrow, we'll go over some of the stuff like charts. Fun. I like doing chart stuff, so I'll have some fun with that. And then yeah, I guess you can hop off for lunch, and we'll meet you back at 2 o'clock. Do please, if you don't have your those your picks by lunch tomorrow, we're just going to pick for you. So I would say do that today. And if you have any issues or you have any questions, ask today. Like, let's just say those are due at the end of the day tomorrow, at the end of the day today, your picks, even though we won't tell your groups until tomorrow or Wednesday.
Okay.
We'll probably tell you tomorrow at project time. But sweet.
Sounds good.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Wait, thank you.